Now let's discuss how to evaluate concepts. Okay, so we evaluate concepts using something called a matrix. Okay, but so anyway, a matrix is really just a table. All right. So in your matrix, what you will have is the first column will have your objectives, right? And then in these other columns you will have your concepts, right? So let's get a list of some objectives so we can show you how to populate the matrix.
Michelle, your eyes are already answering the question. Just answer it, man.
I can't do sign language. No shadow. Do you have any objectives?
Must transform. Transform to someone who's not shy.
Objectives, people. I'd like to remind you that this is yesterday's content. I still need to cover today's content. So let's list some objectives so we can get going. Still want to. Yes.
Say concentration of the concentrate development of a certain street.
Which street?
High street.
Okay. Ricardo.
And mixed use around the high street.
Create more feasible public spaces.
Feasible. We need a different description, not feasible. Because feasible means the extent to which it can be implemented. But when you were identifying problems, you didn't identify that these public spaces were not feasible. You identified something else about them. Yeah. Amy?
Create more inclusive public spaces.
Yeah, we could use inclusive.
I was going to say have public spaces.
Just have them.
Well, create public spaces.
Alright, anyway, I'm just going to go ahead with these words that you have. Okay, so once you have your objectives, remember you would have like about 5 of them. So once you have your objectives, what you want to do is you want to weigh your objectives. They can all have the same weighting, but if one is more important than the others, then you want to give them more weighting. So when you look at these, do you think that they are all the same weighting? Or is one more important than the others? Yes.
I think like we have like different degrees of of importance when it comes to the food. So like I think mixed use would be like, okay, we start with inclusive public space. It would be like for me the most important, then followed by mixed use, then followed by the development.
So you said which one is most important?
Inclusive public space.
Okay. So you give inclusive public space a rating of 3, and then which one is mixed use? And then we give it a rating of 1. What were you going to say, Amy?
With this whole importance and rating stuff, that's what we're looking for in a community, right? So it's like, what does the community most need? Like, what is the most important?
Yes, what it would be is, what's the key driver for your theme? So if your theme was something around how children, you know, like are socialized, you might not think that the concentration of development on high street is really important to how children are socialized. Maybe because when you were doing your activity mapping, you found that there were not a lot of children on high street, but children preferred the quieter streets. So then you would think that inclusive public spaces would be better because it would be inclusive of different ages. Children of different incomes could actually socialize together. So with that theme in mind, this objective would be more important. But if you had an if you had a theme that was something along the lines of revitalizing the neighborhood, or like your theme had to do with how urban decay is causing, I don't know, you could say urban decay is causing a lack of social activity, or urban decay is negatively affecting pedestrian patterns. If you had that in mind, then you would want to focus on the street that has the highest activity and the highest potential for redevelopment, which would be High Street. So this objective of mixed use would be more important. The objective of concentrating development would also be important, but not as important as mixed use, because as we remember, mixed use is actually more resilient than if you concentrated and you had higher density of a particular use. So think about it like this. If you concentrate development on High Street, it could mean that you want to have more shops on High Street, right? But if you have those shops there, and then something happens, maybe there's a recession, then fewer people have money to spend on the shops, and then you could have urban decay again as some of the shops close. But if you have mixed use, then you've got different uses. If the shops close, there's still residences. If the residents move, there's still shops. You know? So that's more resilient. So this would be, if you had a theme of urban decay and regeneration, you would focus more on the mixed use. Okay. Now, once you have your concept, you have your 3 concepts. I want to place where can everyone sit down here? Yeah? Yes. Okay, so Okay. So now, with those students, one of the reasons why I don't really like chalk. I would prefer if I had a smartboard. When you graduate, you should donate to the school so I can buy a smartboard. But one of the reasons why I prefer to do this instead of presenting PowerPoints to you is because later on when we're in studio, I then also expect you to be able to draw as casually as I can draw. So I draw in front of you so that you can see that I just come up with these things on the spot, and that's exactly what you would be doing as well. Okay. So over here we have the existing public facilities. Here we have a small park. And then down here we have low density residential. Here we have medium density residential. And then over here we have offices. So here we have a market, and then this is those public facilities again. And this is medium density, and it's mixed. And then this is low density. And this one we have a park, and then we have low density residential over here. And this is medium density mixed. And when you say medium density, we'll ask you, like, what do you mean by medium? And then you have to say something like, this would be 3 stories high, or this would be between 3 to 4 stories high, something like that. You have to have a sense of what medium means. You could also express it in density, you know, where you say that this would be 100 units per hectare, 100 units per, I forgot how to express it, sorry. And then this here would be offices, and up here we still have the existing
What does MKT stand for market?
What is it? Yes, yes, this is a market. Alright. So now these concepts won't be easy for us to evaluate because we don't have enough objectives. So there's a lot of things that were done haphazardly without an intention to satisfy some objective or to solve some problem. But if you are very clear about your objectives, then you have good reason for why you put a market there. There's no reason on my objectives. But if I had an objective to improve livelihoods or whatever. Yes, sir.
So you apply these concepts, how many objectives will we need?
I expect a minimum of 5, but remember where the objectives come from. They come from your site analysis, all the problems that you identify, and then your objectives will match that number. So if you have all these problems that you want to address, then you have to set objectives to address them. Sometimes an objective could solve more than one problem, which is fine, but there must be that connection between you identifying the problem and then you proposing an objective, and then the concept that shows how that objective will be achieved in space. Yeah. Okay. So then what we do is we want to look at each one of these concepts. So this would be A, this is B, and this is C. And we want to see the extent to which each one achieves. Right? Okay. So this weighting over here, we use that as a multiplier. Okay. So each time an objective achieves something, you can give it a score.
What do you mean achieve?
So let's find an example. Concentrate development on High Street. Okay. Which one of these concentrates development on High Street? This one finds existing development, and what do we do to the existing development? When you look at this concept, what has this concept done to the existing development? Just left it like that, right? When you look at this concept here, what has it done to the existing development?
Introduced a market.
It added a market, okay? And this one, what has it done?
Introduced into
It added like some paths through it, okay? So this one does zero, doesn't do anything to it. This one does at least one thing to it, okay? And this one also does one thing to it, okay? But I feel like this one does more, right? Because it's actually added a use there. I mean, to be honest, if there's a market here, there should probably also be a path that leads to the market. There will probably also be a path like this. A pedestrian path that leads to the market. So then what we would do is we would say that we think that B deserves a 2 for that. And then A deserves a 0, and then C deserves a 1. Okay? Okay.
So once we like give A, B, or C a rating, do we also have to explain why we gave it a rating?
No, not necessarily. You don't have to explain it. If you were doing like a more comprehensive report, then yeah, I would expect you to explain it. But you know, in this particular course, we're just trying to give you an overview of like what would happen. Okay. So perhaps if you are asked in your presentation, then you will explain. Just like I explained right now that I think that the market is more impactful than doing nothing, and the market is more impactful than just adding a party. Okay. Right? Okay. And then, did you notice how while I was assessing the concepts, I realized that there's a need to add a path here. And this is natural. This is what should happen to you as well. Where we call this the reiterative process. I'm going to forget how to spell it again. And this explains how design is cyclical. Okay, that you go up, you go to the end, but then you go back to fix, and then you go to the. So sometimes you might find that creating the market satisfies some other objective. Like we found now that, oh, even though this market looks like a cool idea concept, we didn't actually have an objective to satisfy. And you could go back and actually say, you know what, there was a problem of street traders not trading in a good, safe place that's comfortable. Maybe we should actually have an objective to create a market, or an objective to improve the livelihoods of street traders, something like all those lines. Then you set the objective and then do that. Okay, so mixed use on High Street. Concept number 1 has no mixed use at all. Okay, so that concept is totally out of the question. Concept number 2 has mixed use. Okay, it's not really on High Street, is it? And then concept number 3 has mixed use, but it's at the bottom. Okay. So again, I would think that B is doing something and C is doing something. Okay, and then I would say which one is doing it better. Okay, and I would think that B is that. So I give B a 2, and C gets a 1 again. A gets a 0. Okay, creating inclusive space, right? A has got a space, it's right at the center of all of the land uses. What do you think about that? Is this good? Yeah? Because everyone can come and actually mix in the space. This one here does not have a public space. Okay. It has the street over here, but I haven't shown anything to the effect of it being a public space. You know, maybe I could now claim, now that I realize that, oops, I'm not achieving my objective, I could actually improve this by changing this into a linear park. But right now it's just a road going to the side, it's not a public space. So B would get a 0 for this one. Okay, and then A, this one also, B, C is also very similar, right? In that it also has a space in the middle that's in contact with all of these. But now, if you want, you have to assess further and think, but which one would be most inclusive when you actually think about it at the end? Which one would be active more of the time? You know, things like that. C. You think C? Okay. I see two things here that make me think that C would work better than A. Okay. What do you see? It has more residential areas. Well, yeah, it does have this. And this one has this and this. Okay, yeah. It's hard for me to measure, even though I'm going to draw it. But yeah, it might have more residential areas. What else?
There's parts and stuff.
Yes, there's parts. Remember that, so here, because the paths end at this place, right? The paths will go in, but they end here, sorry. This means that the only people who would actually move into this park would be people who are going to the park. So this would be optional use, okay? People who choose to go to the park. Here you'd have people who are moving from down in the south and are going up to High Street. They would pass through the park. So this would be a more inclusive place, okay? Because it would have a wider variety of users, including users who are just passing through. Okay, and so with that, A scores a 1 and C scores a 2. Alright, and then over here on this side, we're just going to so it's not on that side. So for A, it's 1 times 0, that's a 0. And 2 times a 0, that's another 0. And then 3 times 1. And then the total score will be 3.
Oh wait, so you times that one?
Yes, we use this here, the weighting, we use the weighting as a multiplier. So it's got a 0 for concentrating development. Okay, so 0 times 1. It's got a 0 for mixed use, so this 2 times 0. And it's got a 1 for inclusive public space, so this 1 times 3. And then I add all of these up and they total. So maybe I should do it like this. Okay, and then when I add these up, the total is 3. Okay, and then here times 1 times 3. And this would be a 2, this is a 4, so it's a 6. I'm pretty sure there's an easier way to do this, but I hate maths. Okay. That's 1. Okay. And so with that, even though we had this wonderful novel thing with the market, in the end, the one that really satisfies our objectives is C. Okay. Now the benefit of using this matrix to assess your concepts is it makes you somewhat objective. Okay. I'm sure you could tell that I really liked B. I thought B was the one. But when we actually go down to it, B doesn't seem to be the one. But now what you would do is you could say, I'm still not satisfied. Let me make another concept that mixes these two together. Okay. So let me add a market here. And then you now have another concept, concept D, which adds these. And then once you've added them together, then you want to try again and actually assess what D would look like. And then you have your score in there, and then you choose D. Alright. Okay, so we're going to take a break now. You can come and take a picture of this.